The champagne flutes clinked like tiny bells, sharp and cold against the marble floors that stretched endlessly beneath my worn sneakers. I kept my eyes down, the way Mrs. Chen had taught me during my first week at the agency. Invisible, quick, efficient. That's what a good maid should be in places like this. A penthouse so vast it could swallow my entire apartment building whole. The scent of expensive perfume mixed with cigar smoke clung to the air, thick and suffocating. I moved through the crowd of tailored suits and silk dresses like a ghost, my cleaning cart rattling softly as I collected abandoned glasses. Crystal. Everything here was crystal or gold, or some other material that cost more than I'd make in a year. My fingers ached. 3 double shifts this week, and still not enough to cover Mama's medical bills. The thought sat heavy in my chest as I reached for another glass, its rim stained with burgundy lipstick. "Watch it!" I jerked back just as a woman in an emerald gown swept past, her elbow missing my face by inches. She didn't even glance at me. None of them did. To these people, I was furniture. Convenient, replaceable furniture. The penthouse belonged to someone important. I'd overheard that much from the other staff. Someone you didn't ask questions about. Someone whose name made the security guards straighten their spines and lower their voices. I'd been hired through the agency just for tonight's event, some kind of business gathering that felt more like a performance of wealth than an actual party. I pushed my cart toward the far corner where the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. 23 floors up, the lights below looked like fallen stars. For a moment, I let myself imagine what it would feel like to belong here, to wear those dresses, to never count pennies or skip meals. That's when I saw her. She sat alone on a velvet bench near the grand piano, small and utterly still in a sea of moving bodies. A child, maybe 7 or 8, with dark hair pulled into a tight braid and a white dress that looked too formal, too perfect. Her hands were folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on something I couldn't see, or maybe on nothing at all. People flowed around her like water around a stone. A man in a gray suit nearly backed into her, stopped just short, then moved away without acknowledging her presence. A woman laughed loudly 3 feet from where the girl sat, champagne sloshing in her glass. But the child didn't flinch. Something twisted in my chest. I knew that kind of invisibility. I lived it every day. I should have kept working. Should have minded my business and finished my shift. But my feet carried me closer, drawn by some instinct I couldn't name. The girl's stillness was unnatural, like she existed in a different dimension from everyone else in the room. As I approached, I noticed her hands. They were moving. Not folded after all, but tracing patterns on her lap. The same motion, over and over. Circle, line, circle, line. Her lips moved soundlessly, counting or reciting something only she could hear. "Hi," I said softly, crouching down so we were at eye level. She didn't look at me. Her fingers continued their invisible drawing, precise and methodical. "I'm Elena." I tried again, gentler this time. "What's your name?" "Nothing." But I noticed her breathing had changed, quickened slightly. She'd heard me, even if she couldn't show it the way other children might. I glanced around. No one was watching this little girl. No parent hovered nearby. No nanny kept a protective eye. She was alone in this crowd of hundreds, and somehow that felt more wrong than anything else in this glittering, hollow room. "Do you like music?" I asked, nodding toward the piano. A man in a tuxedo was playing something classical, his fingers dancing across the keys with practiced ease. This time, something shifted. The girl's head tilted, just barely. Her hand movements paused for half a second before resuming their pattern. Music. She'd responded to the word music. I didn't know much about children, especially not children like this. Children who seemed to live behind glass, present, but unreachable. But I knew loneliness. I knew what it felt like to be in a room full of people, and still be utterly alone. "The music is pretty," I continued, keeping my voice low and even. "But I think it would be prettier if someone danced to it, don't you?" Her fingers stopped. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, so slowly I almost thought I'd imagined it, her eyes moved. Not to me, but to the space beside me, to the empty floor where couples occasionally swayed between conversations. My heart squeezed. She wanted to dance. This small, invisible girl wanted to move to the music, but no one had noticed. No one had asked. I stood up and held out my hand. "Would you like to dance with me?" The words felt enormous in the space between us. I half expected her to retreat further into herself, to ignore me the way she'd ignored everyone else. But then her gaze shifted, finally meeting mine for just a fraction of a second, and she placed her small hand in mine. It was tentative, her grip feather light, as if she wasn't entirely sure I was real. But she stood up, her white dress rustling softly. She was smaller than I'd thought, barely reaching my ribs. "Okay," I whispered. "Just follow my steps, nice and easy." The piano music swelled, something gentle and waltz-like. I guided her hand to my shoulder and took her other hand in mine, beginning a simple box step, left, right, back, forward. Nothing fancy. I wasn't a dancer, just a girl who'd learned basic steps at quinceañeras and weddings in my neighborhood. She was stiff at first, her movements mechanical, but she followed the rhythm perfectly, better than I did. Her eyes had gone distant again, but I could feel something shifting in the way she held herself, less like a statue, more like a child. We turned slowly, and I saw a few people glancing our way now, not at me, never at me, but at her. Some looked curious, others uncomfortable. A woman whispered something behind her hand to the man beside her. I didn't care. For these few minutes, this little girl wasn't invisible. She was dancing. "You're doing great," I told her softly. "You're a natural." Her lips curved. Not quite a smile, but something close, something that made my eyes burn. That's when I felt it. The change in the air. Like electricity before a storm. The conversations around us had quieted. Not completely, but enough that I noticed. I glanced up and immediately wished I hadn't. 3 men stood near the entrance to the hallway, all wearing dark suits that screamed money and menace. But it was the man in the center who made my breath catch. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from stone, sharp jaw, sharper eyes. The kind of eyes that seemed to see through skin and bone straight into your guilty conscience. Even from across the room, his presence was crushing, absolute. This was someone who didn't ask for attention. He commanded it. His gaze swept the room with cold efficiency, the kind of assessment that cataloged threats and weaknesses in seconds. The men flanking him had their hands near their jackets in a way that made my survival instincts scream. Security. Armed security. And then his eyes found us. Found her. The little girl in my arms went rigid, her hand tightened on my shoulder, her breath hitching in a way that made my protective instincts flare. The man's expression didn't change, but something in his stillness shifted. His focus locked onto the child with an intensity that made the air feel thin. Then his gaze moved to me. Ice flooded my veins. His eyes were dark, not brown, but something deeper, almost black. And in them, I saw something that terrified me more than anger would have. Calculation. Assessment. The look of someone deciding exactly how much of a threat I posed and what to do about it. He moved forward, and the crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. No one stopped him. No one even came close. People stepped back instinctively, some nodding respectfully, others dropping their eyes. The 2 men flanked him at a precise distance, close enough to intervene, far enough to give him space. My heart hammered against my ribs. I should let go of the girl. I should step back, apologize, disappear the way I was supposed to, but her hand was still in mine, and she was trembling now, and I couldn't make myself release her. He stopped 3 feet away. Up close, he was even more imposing. 6 foot something of controlled power in an immaculate black suit that probably cost more than my car. A Rolex caught the light on his wrist, the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something darker, more dangerous. Sophia. His voice was low, quiet, but it carried weight, authority that made my knees weak. The girl, Sophia, didn't look at him. Her fingers had resumed their pattern against my shoulder. Circle, Line. Circle. Line. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He glanced at me, and I saw it then. The fury barely leashed beneath that controlled exterior. Not at her, at me. Who are you? Each word was precise, clipped. My voice came out as a whisper. I cleared my throat, tried again. Elena. I'm with the catering staff. You were just what? He stepped closer, and I could feel the threat radiating off him like heat. Touching my daughter? Daughter. Oh God. This was her father. This man who looked like he could order someone's death with a nod and sleep soundly afterward. This man who commanded the room without saying a word, who had armed guards and the kind of presence that screamed danger in every language. And I'd just grabbed his daughter's hand without asking permission. She wanted to dance. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Breathless and desperate. I'm sorry. I should have asked someone. But she was alone in the music. She responded to the music, and I just thought, You thought. He repeated the words like they tasted bitter. His eyes hadn't left my face, and I felt pinned under that stare, a butterfly under glass. You thought you had the right to touch her. No, My throat tightened. Sophia's hand was still on my shoulder, and I was terrified to move, terrified to let go. I didn't mean any harm, I swear. One of the guards shifted, his hand moving inside his jacket. My pulse spiked so hard I felt dizzy. But then Sophia made a sound, small, barely audible. Not quite a word, more like a hum. Her fingers pressed harder against my shoulder, and her other hand gripped mine tighter. The man's eyes dropped to his daughter. Something flickered across his face, too fast for me to read. Pain? Frustration? Whatever it was gone in an instant, replaced by that cold mask. Sophia. He said her name again, softer this time. He extended his hand toward her. Come here, Mia Piccola. She didn't move. If anything, she pressed closer to me, her small body trembling. My heart broke and terrified at the same time. This little girl didn't want to go to her own father, and I was caught in the middle of something I didn't understand, something that felt dangerous in ways I couldn't articulate. The man's hand lowered slowly. His jaw worked, a muscle ticking beneath the skin. When he looked at me again, the fury was banked, but not gone, smoldering beneath the surface like coals waiting to ignite. How long have you been with her? He asked. Just a few minutes. I saw her sitting alone and alone. The word cut like a blade. His gaze swept the room, and I saw several people suddenly become very interested in their drinks. Mrs. Chen. An older woman materialized at his elbow, as if summoned by dark magic. She was the head of the catering company, the one who'd hired me. Her face had gone pale. Mr. Salvatore, I can explain. Where was Maria? His voice remained quiet, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Maria said Sophia wanted to stay by the piano, and she just stepped away for a moment to what? Now the anger leaked through, sharp and lethal. To abandon my daughter in a room full of strangers? Mrs. Chen's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. I wanted to disappear, wanted to sink through the floor and never resurface. But Sophia's hand was still in mine, and some stupid, self-destructive part of me couldn't abandon her the way everyone else apparently had. Mr. Salvatore, the name echoed in my head with recognition I didn't want to acknowledge, turned back to me. You. What's your full name? Elena Morales, sir. How old are you? 22. His eyes narrowed slightly, reassessing. And you work for Mrs. Chen's company? Yes, sir. Just temporary. Through the agency. Why was I telling him this? Why couldn't I shut up? He was silent for a long moment, studying me with that unnerving intensity. Then he looked at Sophia again, really looked at her, and I saw something crack in that stone exterior. Something raw. She doesn't usually... He stopped, seemed to struggle with the words. She doesn't let people touch her, doesn't respond to strangers. It wasn't an accusation this time. It was something else. Confusion, maybe. Or wonder. I didn't force her, I said quickly. I just offered. She chose to take my hand. His gaze snapped back to me, searching for lies. I met his eyes, even though every instinct screamed to look away. I had nothing to hide. Not about this. Finally, he nodded once. Sharp. Decisive. Marco. One of the guards stepped forward. Clear the room. Everyone out except essential staff. Marco didn't question, just pulled out his phone and began making calls. Within seconds, security guards I hadn't even noticed began politely but firmly ushering guests toward the exit. Protests arose, weak, quickly silenced. No one argued with Mr. Salvatore. Not really. Mrs. Chen looked like she might faint. Mr. Salvatore, if there's anything— Your company is fired, Mrs. Chen. His tone was conversational, which made it more terrifying. You'll receive payment for tonight's services. But if I ever hear that you've worked in this city again, we'll have a different conversation. She opened her mouth, closed it, then turned and fled. My stomach dropped. I'd just cost my boss her entire business, and I was probably next. But Mr. Salvatore wasn't looking at Mrs. Chen anymore. He was watching Sophia, who had finally stopped trembling and was now swaying slightly to the piano music, which hadn't stopped despite the chaos. Does she want to keep dancing? He asked me. The question surprised me so much I almost didn't answer. I think so. Yes. He nodded slowly, then did something that shocked me more than anything else that night. He pulled out his phone, pressed a button, and spoke quietly into it. Cancel everything. I'm staying here tonight. Then he looked at me, and I saw the threat return to his eyes. But it was different now. Not immediate violence, but a promise. You'll stay too. It wasn't a request. The room emptied quickly after that. Guests filed out with backward glances and whispered conversations. Staff cleared dishes and glasses with nervous efficiency. Within 20 minutes, the vast penthouse had gone from packed to nearly empty. I stayed near the piano with Sophia, still slowly turning to the music. The pianist had been told to continue, and he played on with admirable professionalism, though I could see the tension in his shoulders. Mr. Salvatore had stepped away to speak with his guards, Marco and another man whose name I didn't know. Their conversation was low, intense. I caught fragments. Unacceptable. Maria's family. Make an example. I tried not to listen. Tried not to think about what make an example meant in the world of a man like this. Sophia had relaxed considerably now that the crowd was gone. Her movements were smoother, more natural. She even made that humming sound again, matching the pitch of the piano. You have a beautiful voice, I told her softly. She didn't respond, but her humming grew slightly louder. The pianist finished his piece and immediately began another, something gentler, more melodic. I recognized it vaguely from a movie I'd seen years ago, Miss Morales. I turned to find Mr. Salvatore standing a few feet away, up close without the crowd. He was even more imposing, tall enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Broad through the shoulders in a way that suggested he didn't just sit behind a desk. There was a scar, faint but visible, cutting through his left eyebrow. Yes, sir? You can stop dancing now. Sophia needs to eat. I looked down at the little girl, who showed no signs of wanting to stop. I don't think she's ready. She needs to eat, he repeated, firmer this time. She gets overwhelmed when her routine is disrupted. Food will help ground her, I hesitated, then slowly stopped moving. Sophia continued swaying for a moment before going still. Her hand slipped from mine, and I felt the loss of that small connection more than I should have. Mr. Salvatore moved closer, crouching down to his daughter's level. He didn't touch her, I noticed, kept a careful distance. Sophia, tesoro. Dinner time. Your favorite. Pasta with butter and parmesan. Marco brought it from Lucia's. Sophia's fingers began their pattern again. Circle, line, circle, line. But she turned toward her father, a small acknowledgement. That's my girl. His voice had gentled in a way I wouldn't have thought possible. Come on. Kitchen. He stood and began walking, not looking back to see if she followed. After a moment, Sophia did, her steps quick and precise. She didn't look at me. I stood there awkwardly, unsure what to do. Was I supposed to leave? Stay? The guards were still present, watching me with neutral expressions that somehow felt threatening. Miss Morales. Mr. Salvatore's voice carried from the hallway. You too. I followed, my sneakers silent on the marble floors. The kitchen was enormous, all stainless steel and granite countertops, professional-grade appliances that probably cost more than my entire apartment. Sophia had climbed onto a stool at the island, her hands folded precisely in her lap. Mr. Salvatore moved with surprising ease through the space, pulling out containers from a bag Marco had apparently brought. The smell of garlic and butter filled the air, making my stomach growl embarrassingly loud. He glanced at me. "When did you last eat?" "This morning, before my shift." It had been toast. Dry toast, because I'd run out of butter. His expression didn't change, but he pulled out another plate. "Sit." I sat, because arguing seemed like a bad idea. He plated the pasta with practiced efficiency, simple but perfect, butter glistening over fresh linguine, parmesan shaved on top. He set one plate in front of Sophia, who immediately picked up her fork and began eating with focused precision. One bite, chew exactly 10 times, swallow, repeat. The second plate appeared in front of me. I stared at it. "Eat," he commanded, settling across from us with his own plate. I picked up my fork with shaking hands. The first bite was heaven. Real parmesan, real butter, fresh pasta. I had to close my eyes against the sudden burn of tears. When I opened them, he was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "You haven't eaten all day," he stated. "I eat enough." "That's not what I asked." He took a bite of his own food, chewed thoughtfully. "Why?" "Why what?" "Why approach my daughter? You had to know touching someone's child without permission could end badly for you." I set down my fork, suddenly not hungry anymore. "She looked lonely. I know what that feels like." His eyes narrowed. "You're poor." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "Yes." "Family?" "My mother. She's sick. Medical bills." Why was I telling him this? "Father?" "Gone. Has been for years." He nodded slowly, processing. "You work multiple jobs, 3. The agency, a diner on weekends, and overnight stocking at a grocery store when they need extra hands. And you're still not making enough." It wasn't a question, so I didn't answer. Sophia had finished her pasta and was now tracing patterns on her empty plate. The same pattern. Always the same. Mr. Salvatore stood, took her plate, rinsed it. Then he turned back to me. "I'm going to offer you something, Miss Morales, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer." My heart rate picked up. "What kind of offer?" "A job. Here. Taking care of Sophia." I blinked. "I'm not a nanny. I don't have any qualifications." "Sophia doesn't need qualifications. She needs someone who sees her." He moved closer, and I felt the full weight of his presence. "You saw her tonight. In a room full of people, you were the only one who saw her. That's worth more than any degree." "I don't understand. You don't know me. I could be—" "I know everything about you, Elena Morales." His voice was soft, dangerous. "By the time you sat down at this counter, I knew your address, your mother's diagnosis, how much debt you're carrying, and every job you've worked in the past 5 years. I know you've never been arrested, never even gotten a speeding ticket. I know you send money to your abuela in Mexico every month, even though you can barely afford food." The blood drained from my face. "How?" "That's what I do. I know things. I control things." He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "And right now, I'm offering you a chance to solve all your financial problems in one move. You take care of Sophia. I pay you extremely well. Well enough to cover your mother's medical bills, your rent, and still have money left over." It sounded too good to be true, which meant it definitely was. "What's the catch?" A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Smart girl. The catch is that you move in here. You're available 24/7. Sophia's needs come first, always. And you never, ever speak about this family to anyone outside these walls. Ever. And if I say no," the smile disappeared, "then you leave tonight and we never see each other again. But your mother's hospital bills will still be there tomorrow, and the day after, and you'll still be working yourself to death for pennies." It was a threat, wrapped in logic. A golden cage presented as salvation. I looked at Sophia, who was humming again, her fingers moving in their endless pattern. This small, invisible girl who'd trusted me enough to dance. "How much?" I whispered. He named a figure that made my vision blur. "Monthly." He was offering to pay me monthly what I currently made in a year. "There has to be more to it," I said. "Nobody pays that kind of money just for—" "My daughter is autistic, Miss Morales. She doesn't speak, doesn't look people in the eye, doesn't tolerate touch from anyone, except apparently you." His voice had gone rough. "In 8 years, I've hired 17 nannies. She's rejected every single one. Some lasted days, most didn't make it past hours. But tonight she danced with you. She let you hold her hand. Do you understand how rare that is?" I did. I could see it in the desperate edge beneath his controlled exterior. This powerful, dangerous man was helpless when it came to his own daughter. "I need to think about it," I managed. "No." The word was final. "You decide now. This offer expires when you walk out that door. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Miss Morales. But this is the best offer you're ever going to get. So decide. Your mother's life. Your life. Or your pride." I looked at Sophia again. She was watching us now, her dark eyes moving between her father and me. Not quite focused, but present. Aware. And I thought about Mama, struggling to breathe in that hospital bed. About the bills stacked on my kitchen counter. About the 3 jobs that were killing me slowly, and still not enough. "Okay," I whispered, "I'll do it." Mr. Salvatore's expression didn't change, but something in his posture relaxed infinitesimally. "Good. Marco will take you home tonight to collect your things. You start tomorrow." "Tomorrow? But I have shifts. Already handled. I'll compensate your employers." He pulled out his phone, typed something. "What's your mother's hospital?" I told him. Numb, more typing. Then he looked up. "Her bills are paid. All of them. Consider it a signing bonus." The room spun. "What?" "Your mother's medical debt. It's gone. You're welcome." I couldn't breathe, couldn't process. This man had just erased years of crushing debt with a few taps on his phone. Why? The word came out broken. He looked at Sophia, and for just a moment, the mask cracked completely. I saw the father underneath, desperate, exhausted, terrified of failing the one person who mattered because she smiled. He said quietly, "When you were dancing with her, my daughter smiled, and I would burn this entire city down to see her smile again." Marco drove me home in a black SUV that probably cost more than my building. The leather seats were soft, the ride smooth, and the silence was suffocating. He hadn't said a word since we'd left the penthouse, just held the door open and waited for me to climb in. I stared out the window at the city passing by, my mind spinning. What had I just agreed to? 24 hours ago, I'd been a struggling maid with 3 jobs and a mountain of debt. Now I was apparently a live-in nanny for a mafia boss's autistic daughter. Mafia boss. The words echoed in my head. I wasn't stupid. I knew what Dante Salvatore was. You didn't command that kind of fear, that kind of instant obedience, by running a legitimate business, the way people had scattered when he entered the room. The armed guards, the casual way he'd destroyed Mrs. Chen's career with a single sentence. This was a man who lived outside the law, and I'd just agreed to live in his home. "Here," Marco said, pulling up to my apartment building. It looked even more run down next to the pristine SUV, cracked concrete steps, graffiti on the walls, a broken window on the 2nd floor that had been covered with cardboard for months. "I'll wait," he added, his first complete sentence to me. I nodded and climbed out, my legs shaky. The stairs creaked under my weight as I climbed to the 3rd floor. Mrs. Rodriguez's TV blared through her door. Someone was cooking. The smell of fried plantains hung in the hallway. My apartment was dark and quiet. I flipped on the light and looked around at my life. A studio barely bigger than Mr. Salvatore's kitchen, with a Murphy bed that didn't fold up anymore, a hot plate instead of a stove, and a bathroom where the shower only worked if you jiggled the handle just right. This was what I was leaving behind. This, and the freedom to walk away whenever I wanted. I pulled my battered suitcase from under the bed and began packing. Clothes. I didn't have many. Toiletries. The photo of Mama and me from before she got sick. Both of us laughing at something I couldn't remember anymore. My phone charger. A rosary my abuela had sent me. It took less than 15 minutes to pack my entire life. I sat on the bed, holding the photo, and let myself cry. Quick, silent tears. Then I wiped my face, grabbed my suitcase, and left without looking back. Marco took the suitcase without comment and placed it in the trunk. The drive back to the penthouse was just as quiet as the drive out had been. When we arrived, a different guard met us at a private entrance. "Service elevator," he explained, his voice neutral. "Mr. Salvatore's orders. You use this entrance from now on." Of course. Even in my new role, I was still the help. The elevator rose smoothly, depositing us on the 23rd floor. The guard led me through a different part of the penthouse than I'd seen before, a hallway lined with doors, all closed. "Your room." He opened one, stepping back to let me enter. I walked in and stopped. The room was bigger than my entire apartment had been. A queen bed with a cream duvet. A dresser, a desk, a door that led to a private bathroom. Windows overlooking the city. It was simple, elegant, and completely overwhelming. "Sophia's room is next door," the guard continued. "Mr. Salvatore's suite is at the end of the hall. Kitchen and common areas you saw tonight. Don't enter Mr. Salvatore's office or his bedroom without permission. Don't answer the door. Don't speak to visitors unless Mr. Salvatore introduces you. Questions?" I had about 1,000,000, but I just shook my head. "Good. Someone will brief you on Sophia's routines in the morning. Get some sleep." He left, closing the door behind him. I set my suitcase down and walked to the window. The city sprawled below, lights twinkling like a promise or a threat. I couldn't decide which. What had I done? I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to cover. For a confused moment, I didn't know where I was. Then memory crashed back. The penthouse, Sophia, Mr. Salvatore's black eyes watching me like I was a problem to be solved. A knock on the door made me jump. "Miss Morales?" A woman's voice accented. "I'm Maria. May I come in?" Maria. The nanny who'd abandoned Sophia last night. I opened the door to find a woman in her 50s, dark hair streaked with gray, wearing an expression of professional pleasantness that didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning," she said coolly. "Mr. Salvatore asked me to show you Sophia's routine before I leave." "Leave?" "I've been dismissed." Her smile was tight. "Apparently, you're my replacement." The hostility was subtle, but unmistakable. I couldn't entirely blame her. I'd probably cost her a well-paying job. But I also remembered Sophia sitting alone while this woman did what? What had been more important than watching a vulnerable child? "I'm sorry," I said, meaning it. "I didn't mean to save it." She brushed past me into the hallway. "Sophia wakes at 7. She eats breakfast at 7:30. Always the same thing. Scrambled eggs, plain toast, orange juice in the blue cup. Never the red one. She'll eat exactly half, then stop. Don't try to make her eat more." I followed her to Sophia's room. Maria knocked twice, then entered without waiting for a response. The room was a study in careful design. Soft blues and whites, minimal decoration, a bed with weighted blankets, shelves organized with books and toys arranged by color and size. Near the window, a small keyboard piano. Sophia sat at a child-sized table, already dressed in a simple blue dress, her hair in the same tight braid from last night. She was drawing, the same pattern she'd traced on her lap. Circle, line, over and over on a piece of paper. She didn't look up when we entered. After breakfast, she plays, usually with her blocks or the piano. She likes patterns, repetition. At 10, she has therapy. Speech therapist comes Mondays and Thursdays. Occupational therapist Tuesdays and Fridays. Lunch at noon. Nap at 1, she'll fight it, but she needs it. Afternoon is quiet time, usually more play or sometimes educational videos. Dinner at 6, bath at 7:30, bed at 8:30. Maria rattled off the schedule like a sergeant giving orders. She doesn't like changes, doesn't like loud noises, doesn't like being touched without warning. Doesn't talk. Sometimes she hums or makes sounds, but no words. Don't expect conversation. I wasn't, I said quietly. Maria's eyes narrowed. You think because she danced with you once, you understand her? You don't. Sophia is complicated, difficult. I've been with the Salvatore family for 3 years, and she's never warmed to me, never. But one night with you and suddenly... She shook her head. Just don't get too confident. Children like her are unpredictable. Children like her? I repeated, my voice sharper than intended. You know what I mean. Actually, I don't. She's just a little girl who experiences the world differently, Maria laughed, brittle and cold. Good luck with that attitude. You'll see. Give it a week, and you'll understand why 17 nannies quit. She left, and I stood there in the doorway, watching Sophia draw her endless pattern. The little girl hadn't acknowledged either of us, hadn't shown any sign that she'd heard the conversation about her. But I wondered. I wondered how much she understood, how much she absorbed. Just because she didn't respond didn't mean she didn't hear. I walked slowly into the room, making sure my footsteps were audible. Good morning, Sophia. It's Elena, from last night. We danced together, remember? No response. Her crayon moved steadily across the paper. I'm going to be staying here for a while. Spending time with you, if that's okay. Circle, line, circle, line. I sat down on the floor a few feet away, close enough to be present but not intrusive. That's a beautiful pattern you're drawing. Very precise. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Sophia's hand paused, just for a second, before resuming. She'd heard me. The days blurred together at first. I learned Sophia's routine, learned the rhythm of the household that moved around her like a careful dance. Mr. Salvatore left early each morning, 6 a.m., sometimes earlier. I'd hear the low rumble of his voice, the quiet efficiency of Marco and the other guards. Then the private elevator, and he'd be gone. He rarely returned before dinner, and when he did, he was different. Still controlled, still commanding, but softer around Sophia. He'd find her wherever she was, usually in her room or the living room with her blocks, and sit nearby, not touching, not demanding attention, just present. Sometimes she'd acknowledge him with a sound or a glance. Sometimes she wouldn't. I watched him carefully during those moments. Saw the way his jaw would tighten when she didn't respond. The way his hands would flex, like he wanted to reach for her but knew better. This powerful man who could command an entire criminal empire was helpless in the face of his daughter's distance. It broke something in me, watching that. On my 4th day, Sophia let me sit next to her while she played with her blocks. She was building towers, always exactly 7 blocks high, always the same color pattern. Red, blue, yellow, green, purple, orange, pink. Then she'd knock it down and start again. Can I build one too? I asked softly. She didn't answer, but she pushed a few blocks toward me. Progress. I built my tower next to hers, same height, same pattern. When I finished, she looked at it for a long moment. Then she reached over and adjusted one of my blocks. The purple one was slightly crooked. Thank you, I said. You're right, that's better. Her fingers brushed mine as she pulled her hand back. Just a whisper of contact, but intentional. My throat tightened. That night, Mr. Salvatore came home early. I was in the kitchen preparing Sophia's dinner. Pasta again, her favorite, when I heard the elevator. He walked in still wearing his suit jacket, though his tie was loosened and he looked tired. A bruise was darkening along his jawline. What happened? The words were out before I could stop them. He touched the bruise absently. Business disagreement. Looks like a painful disagreement. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw a dark amusement there. You should see the other guy. I turned back to the stove, stirring the pasta. Sophia had a good day. She played with her blocks and let me sit with her. She even corrected one of my towers. He moved closer, and I was suddenly very aware of how small the kitchen felt with him in it. That's good. Progress. She's amazing, you know. So smart. The patterns she creates are complex. I think she might have an affinity for mathematics or music. Her mother loved music. The words were quiet, almost reluctant. I glanced at him. We'd never discussed Sophia's mother. I'd noticed the absence of any female presence in the penthouse, but I'd been too afraid to ask. Is she dead? 3 years ago. His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hand gripped the counter edge hard enough that his knuckles went white. Car accident. She was taking Sophia to therapy. A truck ran a red light. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. He nodded once, sharp. Sophia was in the car. She wasn't hurt, physically, but she stopped speaking after that. The doctor said it was trauma on top of her existing condition. She'd been saying a few words before. Mama, music. Simple things. After the accident, nothing. The weight of that settled over the kitchen like a heavy blanket. This little girl had lost her mother and her voice in one terrible moment. Mr. Salvatore, Dante. He looked at me, his dark eyes intense. When we're here in private, you call me Dante. The shift from formality felt dangerous somehow. Intimate. Dante, I repeated, testing the name. Has she shown any signs of speaking since then? No. The therapists are optimistic, but he shrugged, a gesture of forced casualness. I've learned not to hope too hard. I wanted to say something comforting, something that would ease the pain I saw beneath his controlled exterior, but what could I possibly say that wouldn't sound patronizing or empty? Instead, I drained the pasta and plated it. She's waiting for you. She always listens for the elevator around this time. Something shifted in his expression. She does? Every night. Around 6:30, she'll stop whatever she's doing and turn toward the hallway. Like she's waiting. He stared at me for a long moment. Then, without another word, he left the kitchen. I heard his footsteps in the hallway, then his voice, low and gentle. Hi, Piccola. Daddy's home. I didn't hear Sophia's response, if there was one, but a few minutes later, they both appeared in the kitchen. Sophia climbed onto her usual stool, and Dante sat beside her. I served them both, then started to leave. Stay. Dante's voice stopped me. Eat with us. It wasn't a request, but it wasn't quite a command either. Something in between. I sat, and we ate together in comfortable silence. Sophia with her precise 10-chew rhythm, Dante watching his daughter with barely concealed emotion, and me trying to figure out how my life had changed so completely in less than a week. After dinner, Dante carried Sophia to her room for bath time, a routine I'd learned he always handled himself. I cleaned up the kitchen, listening to the sound of water running, and Dante's low voice reading a story. When he emerged an hour later, I was curled up on the couch with a book I'd found in the library. He'd changed into dark slacks and a black shirt, his hair slightly damp. She asked for you. The words were careful, measured. I looked up. What? Not with words. But when I was putting her to bed, she kept looking at the door, and she made a sound, like she was calling someone. My heart squeezed. Should I? Tomorrow. I don't want to disrupt her routine tonight. But tomorrow, you help with bedtime. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Dante poured himself a drink from the bar, whiskey, neat, and sat in the chair across from me. Tell me about your mother. How is she? The change of subject caught me off guard. She's better. The new medication is helping. She called me yesterday, crying. Said she couldn't believe the bills were paid. She thought it was a mistake. What did you tell her? That I got a new job, a good one. I hesitated. I didn't tell her what kind of job, or who I work for. Smart. He took a sip of his drink. Does she know about me? About what I do? No, she doesn't follow the news much. And I trailed off. And you're ashamed to tell her you work for a criminal. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. I'm not ashamed. I'm grateful. But I also know that what you do is dangerous. And I don't want her to worry. He studied me over the rim of his glass. You're not afraid of me. I didn't say that. But you're not. Most people who know what I am can barely look me in the eye. You stare right at me. Why? I set down my book. You want the truth? Always. You're terrifying. The things you can do, the power you have. Yes, that scares me. But Sophia isn't afraid of you, and if she can trust you, Then maybe I can too. Something flickered in his eyes. My daughter has terrible judgment. She trusted Maria, and Maria abandoned her. Maria didn't abandon her on purpose, I said, though I wasn't sure why I was defending the woman. She just didn't understand. There's no excuse for leaving a child alone. His voice had gone cold again, especially not my child, not when I've made it clear that her safety is the only thing that matters. What happened to Maria? I asked quietly. She's alive, if that's what you're asking. I don't hurt innocent people, Elena. He finished his drink and set the glass down with precise control, but her family owed money to some of my associates. That debt is now paid, and they've been strongly encouraged to relocate to another city. Maria's finding new work will be difficult. I should have been horrified. Should have seen this as proof of the monster everyone said he was, but all I could think was that he'd ruined someone's life for failing to watch his daughter properly. And somehow, that made a twisted kind of sense. You're a good father, I said. He laughed, sharp, bitter. I'm a terrible father. I've built an empire on violence and fear, and my daughter can't even look at me most of the time. I don't deserve her. But you love her, more than anything in this world. The words were raw, stripped of all pretense. She's all I have left of Maria. All I have that's good and pure and untouched by the things I've done, and I will do anything, destroy anyone, to keep her safe and happy. The intensity in his voice sent chills down my spine. This was a man who meant every word. A man who would burn the world for his child. Then you're exactly the father she needs, I said softly. He stood abruptly, his control slipping back into place like a mask. It's late. You should get some rest. Tomorrow is Sophia's therapy day, and she'll need you. I nodded and stood, gathering my book. As I passed him, his hand shot out and caught my wrist. Not hard, but firm, stopping me. Thank you, he said quietly, for seeing her, for staying. His thumb brushed over my pulse point, and I felt that touch everywhere. Dangerous. This was dangerous. You're welcome, I whispered. He released me, and I fled to my room, my heart racing for reasons I absolutely refused to examine. 3 weeks passed in a rhythm I hadn't expected to find comforting. Sophia's routine became my routine. I learned the exact temperature she preferred her bathwater, the specific way she liked her toast cut. Diagonal, never straight across. I learned that Tuesdays were harder than other days, that sudden sounds made her retreat into herself, that the color yellow calmed her when she was overwhelmed. And I learned about Dante Salvatore in ways I hadn't anticipated. He was careful with Sophia, painfully so. Every movement deliberate, every word measured. He never raised his voice in her presence, never made sudden gestures. When he held her, rare moments, usually when she was sleepy, his hands were gentle in a way that contradicted everything else about him. But with me, he was becoming less careful. It started small, a hand on my lower back as he passed me in the kitchen, his fingers brushing mine when we both reached for Sophia's cup. The way his eyes would track me across a room, dark and assessing, and something else I couldn't name. I told myself I was imagining it, that a man like him wouldn't look twice at someone like me, a poor maid he'd hired out of desperation. But the tension between us grew with each passing day, thick and electric, and impossible to ignore. Thursday afternoon, Sophia was napping when Dante came home early. I was in the living room, folding her laundry, a task I'd taken over because I'd noticed the housekeeper always folded everything wrong, and it upset Sophia's sense of order. Elena. His voice made me jump. I turned to find him in the doorway, still in his suit but with his jacket gone and his sleeves rolled up. There was blood on his shirt cuff. Are you hurt? I was on my feet before I could think better of it. He glanced down at the blood like he'd forgotten it was there. Not mine. Oh. I sat back down, my heart still racing. Business? Always. He moved into the room, and I was struck again by how he filled a space, how the air seemed to change when he entered. Where's Sophia? Sleeping. She had a good session with her speech therapist this morning. Dr. Chen said she's showing more engagement. Something softened in his face. That's because of you. She's different since you came. She was always amazing. She just needed someone to pay attention. He sat in the chair across from me, his eyes never leaving my face. You defend her constantly, even from compliments. People underestimate her because she's different. I won't do that. No, you wouldn't. He leaned back, studying me with that unnerving intensity. Tell me something, Elena. Are you happy here? The question surprised me. Yes. Why? You never go out. Never leave except to visit your mother on Sundays. Don't you have friends? A boyfriend? Heat crept up my neck. I have friends. I text them. And no boyfriend. Why not? That's kind of a personal question. We live in the same house. I've paid off your mother's medical debt and tripled your previous salary. I think we're past professional boundaries, don't you? He had a point. I don't have time for dating. I never did. Even before this. And now? His voice had dropped lower. Do you want time for that? I set down the shirt I was folding, meeting his eyes directly. What are you really asking, Dante? The use of his first name made something flash in his expression. I'm asking if you're content, if there's anything you need that I'm not providing. I have everything I need, do you? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Because I've noticed things, the way you watch the door when Marco brings groceries, like you're thinking about leaving, the way you flinch sometimes when I come home. You're not a prisoner here, Elena. If you want to leave, I don't want to leave. The words came out fiercer than I intended. Sophia needs me, and I like being here. I like taking care of her. Just her? The question hung between us, loaded with meaning I wasn't ready to examine. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. I grabbed it gratefully, needing the distraction. The message made my blood run cold. Elena? What's wrong? Dante was standing now, alert. It's my mother's neighbor. She says Mama collapsed. They're taking her to the hospital. My hands shook as I tried to pull up my rideshare app. Marco will drive you. Dante already had his phone out. Marco will drive you, he repeated, firm, and I'm coming with you. You don't have to. Sophia is sleeping. Mrs. Patterson next door can watch her for a few hours. You're not doing this alone. I wanted to argue, but the fear choking my throat wouldn't let me. I just nodded. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and despair. I'd spent too much time in places like this over the past 2 years, watching my mother fade a little more with each visit, but this felt different, urgent, terrifying. Dante stayed close as we navigated the emergency room, his presence somehow cutting through the chaos. A nurse who'd been about to tell us to wait suddenly found my mother's room number. A doctor appeared within minutes to give us an update. Pneumonia, he explained. Her immune system is compromised from the cancer treatments. We've got her on antibiotics and oxygen. She's stable for now, but the next 24 hours are critical. My legs went weak. Dante's hand caught my elbow, steady. Can I see her? I asked. Room 412, but she's sleeping. I practically ran to the elevator. Dante followed silently. My mother looked so small in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines and tubes. Her skin was gray, her breathing labored even with the oxygen mask. I sank into the chair beside her and took her hand. Mama, I whispered. I'm here. I'm right here. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Then she saw me and tried to smile. Mija, don't talk, just rest. She squeezed my hand weakly. Then her eyes moved past me to where Dante stood near the door, and confusion crossed her face. This is my employer, I explained quickly. Mr. Salvatore. He drove me here. Dante moved closer, his expression carefully neutral. Mrs. Morales, I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. My mother studied him with surprising sharpness despite her condition. You're the one who paid. Mama, thank you, she whispered. For helping my Elena. Something flickered in Dante's eyes. Your daughter is exceptional, Mrs. Morales. I'm the one who should be grateful. She smiled, then coughed, a wet, rattling sound that made panic spike through me. A nurse hurried in, checked her vitals, adjusted something on one of the machines. She needs to rest, the nurse said gently. You can stay, but keep it quiet. I nodded, unable to speak. Dante touched my shoulder. I'll be outside if you need me. He left, and I sat with my mother, holding her hand as she drifted back to sleep. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. and I prayed to a God I wasn't sure was listening. When I finally emerged, exhausted and hollow, I found Dante exactly where he'd said he'd be, sitting in the hallway, still in his blood-stained shirt, working on his phone. He stood immediately. "How is she?" "Sleeping. They said stable." I rubbed my eyes. "You didn't have to wait. Where else would I be?" The simple statement undid something in me. I'd been so strong, so controlled. But his quiet presence, his certainty, it cracked my armor. "I can't lose her," I whispered. "She's all I have." "You won't. I'll make sure of it." He said it with such absolute conviction that I almost believed him, like he could command death itself to back down. "You can't control everything, Dante. Watch me." He pulled out his phone again, made a call. "I need Dr. Ramos at St. Catherine's Hospital." "Yes, tonight. I don't care what he's doing. Tell him Dante Salvatore needs him and he'll come." He hung up. "Dr. Ramos is the best pulmonologist on the East Coast. He'll be here within the hour. You can't just—" "I can, and I did. Your mother will have the best care available, period." I should have protested, should have maintained some independence, some pride, but I was too tired and too scared. "Thank you." He stepped closer, and suddenly the hallway felt very small. "You don't have to thank me, Elena. You're part of my household now. That means you're under my protection. All of you. I'm just the nanny. You're more than that." His hand came up, fingers brushing my cheek with surprising gentleness. "You brought my daughter back to life. You made her smile. Do you have any idea what that means to me?" I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His touch was fire and ice and everything in between. "Dante." "Mr. Salvatore?" A nurse approached, breaking the moment. "Dr. Ramos is here for Mrs. Morales." Dante stepped back smoothly, his professional mask sliding into place. "Show him to her room." The next hour was a blur of medical jargon and examinations. Dr. Ramos was indeed excellent, thorough, confident, reassuring. He adjusted her treatment plan, ordered additional tests, and promised to monitor her personally. By the time we left the hospital, it was nearly midnight. My mother was stable, sleeping peacefully with the best doctor money could buy watching over her. Marco drove us home in silence. I stared out the window, processing everything. The fear, the relief. The way Dante had simply made things happen with a phone call. The way he'd stayed. "You didn't have to do all this," I said quietly. "Yes, I did." He didn't elaborate. When we reached the penthouse, Mrs. Patterson reported that Sophia had woken once, looked for me, then gone back to sleep. Dante thanked her and sent her home with what I suspected was an extremely generous payment. Then it was just us in the quiet apartment. "You should check on her," Dante said. "She'll feel better knowing you're back." I nodded and headed to Sophia's room. She was curled under her weighted blanket, breathing deeply. I sat on the edge of her bed, watching her peaceful face. "Elena?" I turned to find Dante in the doorway. "I'm going to shower. There's food in the kitchen if you're hungry. And Elena?" His voice softened. "Your mother is going to be fine. I promise you that." "You can't promise." "I can, and I do. Nothing happens in this city without my knowledge or permission. That includes death. Your mother isn't dying on my watch." The arrogance should have annoyed me. Instead, it was strangely comforting. He left, and I stayed with Sophia a little longer before finally heading to my own room. I showered, washing away the hospital smell and the fear, then pulled on my pajamas. I was exhausted, but too wired to sleep. My mind kept replaying the day. Mama's gray face, Dante's steady presence, the way he'd touched my cheek. A soft knock made me jump. I opened the door to find Dante, freshly showered, wearing black sweatpants and a t-shirt, more casual than I'd ever seen him. It made him look younger, less intimidating, almost approachable. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "No." "Come on. I know something that helps." I should have said no. Should have maintained boundaries. But I followed him anyway, down the hall to a door I'd never seen opened. Inside was a library, floor-to-ceiling shelves filled with books, leather chairs, a fireplace. He moved to a cabinet and pulled out a bottle and 2 glasses. "Whiskey?" he offered. "I don't usually." Tonight you do." He poured 2 fingers in each glass and handed me one, to stubborn mothers who refuse to give up. I clinked my glass against his and took a sip. It burned, going down, warm and smoky. We sat in the leather chairs, the silence comfortable. Dante stared into his glass like it held answers. "My mother died when I was 12, he said suddenly. "Cancer. My father was not a good man. She was the only soft thing in our world. When she died, I stopped believing in goodness. I waited, sensing he needed to say this. Until Maria. She was good too. Kind. She saw something in me worth loving. God knows why. And then Sophia came, and for a while, I thought maybe I could be someone different, someone better." He drained his glass. "Then Maria died, and I remembered. Men like me don't get to keep good things. You have Sophia, for now, until she's old enough to realize what her father is, what he's done." His jaw clenched. "She'll hate me eventually. They all do." "I don't hate you." He looked at me sharply. "You should." "Why? Because you've been nothing but generous to me and my mother? Because you love your daughter? Because I'm a monster, Elena." He stood abruptly, pacing. "I've killed people, ordered deaths, destroyed lives. I run an empire built on fear and blood, and I don't lose sleep over it. Then why tell me? Why warn me away?" He stopped, turning to face me. "Because you look at me like I'm human, like I'm not a monster. And that's dangerous for both of us." I stood too, closing the distance between us. "Maybe you are human. Maybe you're both, the monster and the man. And which one do you see right now?" I looked up at him, this powerful, dangerous, broken man who'd stayed in a hospital hallway for hours because I needed him to. Right now? I see a father who would move heaven and earth for his daughter. I see someone who kept his word. I see someone who makes me feel safe. "You shouldn't feel safe with me," but his hand came up, fingers threading through my hair. "You should run." "I'm not running." "Elena, my mother is alive because of you. Sophia smiles because of me. Maybe we both needed each other." He stared at me for a long moment, something fierce and hungry in his eyes. Then he stepped back, breaking the contact. "Go to bed, Elena. Before I do something we'll both regret." I should have listened, should have left. But instead, I closed the distance again and kissed him. For a heartbeat, Dante went completely still. Then his control shattered. His hands cupped my face as he kissed me back with an intensity that stole my breath. This wasn't gentle or tentative. This was raw need, barely leashed desire. His mouth moved against mine like he was drowning and I was air, desperate and consuming. I gasped, and he deepened the kiss, one hand sliding to the back of my neck, the other to my waist, pulling me flush against him. I could feel the tension in his body, the way he trembled with restraint even as he devoured me. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. "This is a mistake," he whispered, but his hands hadn't released me, probably. "I'm not good for you, Elena. I'm not good for anyone. Let me decide that." He pulled back enough to look at me, his dark eyes searching mine. "If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. I don't share. I don't do casual. You'd be mine, and I protect what's mine with everything I have." The possessiveness should have scared me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my stomach. "I'm already yours. I have been since the moment I agreed to stay." Something fierce and triumphant flashed across his face. Then he was kissing me again, slower this time, but no less intense. His hands mapped my body through my thin pajamas, reverent and claiming at once. "Your room or mine?" he murmured against my lips. Reality crashed back. "Sophia. What if she wakes up?" He groaned, resting his forehead against mine again. "You're right. Damn it, you're right." He took a deep breath, visibly pulling himself together. "This isn't how I want this to happen anyway. Not rushed, not in the middle of the night when we're both emotionally raw." I nodded, trying to calm my racing heart. "But make no mistake, Elena." His thumb traced my swollen lower lip. "This is happening. Soon. And when it does, I'm taking my time with you, the The promise in his voice made my knees weak. He kissed me once more, soft and almost sweet, then stepped back. Go. Before I changed my mind about being patient. I fled to my room on shaky legs, my lips still burning from his kiss. The next morning brought awkwardness I hadn't anticipated. I woke to find Sophia already in the kitchen with Dante, both eating breakfast. He looked up when I entered, and the heat in his eyes nearly made me stumble. Good morning, I managed. Morning. His voice was rough, intimate. Coffee's fresh. Sophia made a humming sound, her version of a greeting, and I focused on her gratefully. Good morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep well? She nodded, then pushed a piece of toast toward me. An offering. My heart melted. Thank you. I took the toast and sat beside her. Dante watched us with an expression I couldn't quite read. I have meetings all day, he said. But I'll be home for dinner. We need to talk. The word sent both anticipation and nervousness through me. Okay. He stood, pressing a kiss to Sophia's head. Then, while she was focused on her eggs, he leaned down and kissed me too, quick and possessive and completely inappropriate with his daughter 3 feet away. Dante, tonight, he promised, then left. I sat there, fingers touching my lips, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. The day passed in a strange blur. Sophia had therapy, which went well. Dr. Chen commented again on her increased engagement, her willingness to try new things. During lunch, she even let me brush her hair, something Maria had said she'd never tolerated. But my mind kept drifting to Dante, to his kiss, to the promise in his words, to the fact that I'd just complicated everything by falling for my employer, a dangerous crime boss who'd made it clear he didn't do anything halfway. My mother called in the afternoon, her voice stronger. Dr. Ramos had visited that morning and was pleased with her progress. She'd be in the hospital a few more days, but the crisis had passed. That man of yours is very generous, she said, a knowing tone in her voice. He's not my man, Mama. He's my employer. Mija, I may be sick, but I'm not blind. The way he looked at you yesterday, she paused. Just be careful. Men like that are complicated, I know. But you're falling for him anyway. I couldn't deny it. Maybe. She sighed. Then I'll pray for you both, and for that sweet little girl you've told me about. After we hung up, I found Sophia in the living room, building her towers. But today, something was different. Instead of 7 blocks, she'd made 8. And the color pattern had changed. Sophia? That's beautiful. A new pattern? She looked at me, really looked at me, and pointed to the tower. Then to herself. My breath caught. Is that you? 8 blocks because you're 8 years old? She nodded. Actually nodded. And the colors? Do they mean something? She pointed to the bottom block, dark blue, then to the photo on the mantle of her mother. Blue like her mother's favorite color, which Dante had mentioned once. Then she pointed to the top block, yellow, and pointed to me. Yellow is me? My voice cracked. Another nod. Then she did something that stopped my heart. She reached out and took my hand, squeezing it gently. I love you too, sweetheart, I whispered. That's how Dante found us hours later, sitting on the floor, holding hands, Sophia's new tower standing between us like a bridge. He stopped in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Then he saw the tower, and understanding dawned. She made a new pattern, I explained softly. 8 blocks. I think she's telling a story. Dante crouched beside us, studying the tower. His finger traced the colors, and I saw the moment he recognized his late wife's favorite shade. His jaw tightened with emotion. Then Sophia did something extraordinary. She released my hand and reached for her father's. Slowly, deliberately, she placed his hand on top of mine. We both froze. Sophia looked at us with those dark, knowing eyes, then back to her tower, the bottom block, her mother, her foundation, the middle blocks, her father, her protection, and the top block, me, the new addition. She was telling us her family was growing, asking us, in her own way, if this could be real. Dante's fingers tightened over mine. Sophia, tesoro, are you saying... She hummed, that same musical sound she made when she was happy. Then she leaned against me, her small body trusting and warm. Dante's eyes met mine over her head, and I saw everything there. Fear, hope, love, desperation. "Stay," he said, not to Sophia, to me. Not just as her nanny. Stay with us, both of us. Be part of this family. Dante, we've only known each other a month. I've known you long enough to know I don't want to lose you. Long enough to know that Sophia needs you, that I need you. He stood, pulling me up with him. Sophia is still between us. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. I'm asking you to give this us a real chance. Your world is dangerous. I'll keep you safe, both of you. That's what I do. I protect what's mine. I'm not some possession. No. You're the woman who saw my daughter when everyone else looked away. You're the woman who kissed me knowing exactly what I am. You're the woman who makes me believe I might deserve something good for once in my miserable life. Sophia made an impatient sound, tugging on both our hands. I looked down at her, this beautiful, brilliant child who'd somehow become my whole world. Then, at Dante, this dangerous, broken man who'd given me everything I needed without asking for anything in return. Until now. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, we'll try." The smile that broke across his face transformed him. For a moment, he wasn't the terrifying crime boss. He was just a man who'd been given an unexpected gift. He pulled me close, careful of Sophia between us, and kissed me. Soft, deep, full of promise. Sophia hummed happily, wrapping her small arms around both of our legs. 6 months later. "Elena, Sophia won't wear her blue dress." I smiled at the sound of Dante's exasperated voice from down the hall. Our life had settled into a rhythm I never could have imagined. Chaotic, unconventional, but utterly perfect. Sophia had started speaking again 3 months ago. Just a few words at first, whispered so quietly I almost missed them. "Lena." She couldn't quite manage Elena, but I didn't care. Hearing her voice had made both Dante and me cry. Now she was using full sentences, though she still preferred her comfortable silence most of the time. And she'd developed opinions. Strong ones. I entered her room to find Dante holding the blue dress, while Sophia stood in front of her closet in her underwear, arms crossed, looking mutinous. "What's wrong with the blue dress?" I asked. "Yellow," Sophia said firmly. "Today is yellow." I glanced at Dante, who looked bewildered. "Yellow is her happy color," I explained. "And today's a happy day, right, Sophia?" She nodded. Today was the day we were officially moving Mama into the guest house Dante had built on the property. She was in remission, healthy enough to live independently, but close enough for me to see her every day. "Yellow it is," Dante conceded, hanging the blue dress back up. He'd learned to pick his battles. Sophia ran to me, and I helped her into the yellow dress. She was getting so big, 9 now, confident and curious and still beautifully herself. Therapy had helped, but mostly I thought she just needed to feel safe, loved, seen. "Papa, can we show Abuela my tower?" Sophia asked, tugging Dante's hand. "Of course, Piccola." I watched them head out, hand in hand. My heart so full it ached. Dante had changed too, still dangerous, still commanding. Those parts of him would never disappear. But Sophia had softened his edges, and he'd learned to show affection openly, to trust that we wouldn't leave. My phone buzzed. Marco, letting me know Mama's car was arriving. I headed outside just as the SUV pulled up. Mama emerged slowly, still thin but healthy, her smile bright when she saw me. "Mija." She pulled me into a hug. "It's so beautiful here. Wait until you see your house. Dante had it custom built with everything you need." "That man spoils us." "Yes, he does." Dante appeared with Sophia, who immediately ran to my mother. "Abuela, come see my tower. I added you." Mama let Sophia drag her inside, laughing. Dante came to stand beside me, his arm sliding around my waist. "Happy?" he asked. Deliriously. He kissed my temple. "Good. Because I have something for you. Dante, you just built my mother a house. This is different." He pulled a small box from his pocket. My heart stopped. "What? I know I said I wouldn't rush you, but Elena, it's been 6 months, and I can't imagine my life without you in it. You've given me back my daughter, given me a reason to be better." He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. "Marry me. Not because you work for me, not because of Sophia, but because I love you. Because you're my home." Tears blurred my vision. "You love me?" Desperately. Completely. Probably more than is healthy. His thumb wiped away my tears. "Say yes, Elena. Make me the luckiest bastard in the world." "Yes." I laughed through my tears. "Yes, of course, yes." He slid the ring on my finger, then kissed me with such tenderness I forgot we were standing in the driveway. Forgot everything except the feeling of being exactly where I belonged. "Mama! Papa! Abuela says she wants cake!" We broke apart, laughing. Sophia stood in the doorway, impatient and perfect. "Then we'll have cake," Dante called back. He took my hand, the one now wearing his ring, and we walked inside together. My mother was already in the kitchen with Sophia, discussing cake options with the seriousness of a military strategy. When she saw my ring, her eyes filled with tears, but she just smiled and pulled me into another hug. "I'm so happy for you, mija," she whispered. "You deserve this. All of this." That night, after Mama was settled in her new house and Sophia was asleep, Dante and I stood on the balcony overlooking the city. His arms were around me, my back against his chest, both of us quiet and content. "I never thought I'd have this," he said softly. "A real family. Peace. It's not always peaceful. Sophia had a meltdown yesterday over her toast being too dark." He chuckled. "True, but it's ours. Our chaos, our love, our life." "Our life," I repeated, turning in his arms to kiss him. I liked the sound of that. He deepened the kiss, and I felt his intention shift. "Sophia's asleep. Your mother's in her own house. Are you suggesting something, Mr. Salvatore?" "I'm suggesting I'd like to take my fiancée to bed and show her exactly how much I love her." Heat flooded through me. "That sounds perfect." He swept me into his arms, literally swept me up like I weighed nothing, and carried me to his bedroom. Our bedroom now. Later, wrapped in his arms, my head on his chest, I listened to the steady beat of his heart and thought about how far we'd both come. From that first night when I'd been invisible, he'd been untouchable, and Sophia had been alone. Now none of us were any of those things. "I love you," I whispered into the darkness. His arms tightened around me. "I love you too. Both of you. My girls. My everything." I fell asleep smiling, dreaming of yellow dresses and block towers and a future I never could have imagined, but couldn't wait to live. Epilogue. 2 years later. "Mama, the baby's kicking again." I looked up from where I was folding laundry to see Sophia with her hand on my very pregnant belly, her face lit up with wonder. At 11, she was all long limbs and bright smiles, her voice clear and confident. "He's strong, like his papa," I said, covering her hand with mine. Dante appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. "Is my son causing trouble already?" "Our son is just saying hello," I corrected. He crossed the room and kissed me, then Sophia, then placed his hand on my belly, where his son, our son, was indeed kicking vigorously. "He's going to be a fighter," Dante said proudly. "Or a dancer, like Aunt Lena taught me," Sophia countered. She'd taken to ballet over the past year, and it had become her favorite form of expression. "Why not both?" I suggested. Sophia considered this seriously. "A fighting dancer. I like it." Mama appeared then, holding a tray of snacks. She lived with us now full-time, her health stable, but needing the family close. She'd become indispensable, helping with Sophia, preparing for the baby, keeping us all organized. "Dinner in an hour," she announced. "And Dante, you have a visitor." Marco said it's important. Dante's expression shifted immediately into business mode. "Where?" "Your office." He kissed my forehead. "I'll be quick." After he left, Sophia helped me finish folding while chattering about her day, school, friends, the new pattern she was composing on the piano. She'd discovered a gift for music, and Dante had hired the best teachers money could buy. An hour later, Dante still hadn't emerged from his office. Unusual. I found Mama and asked her to help Sophia set the table, then headed down the hall. The office door was slightly ajar. I could hear voices, Dante's and someone else's. angry. Disrespect to the family cannot stand. I understand, but nothing. You failed. The shipment was intercepted. That's on you. A pause. Then the other voice, desperate. Please, I have children. Then you should have thought about them before you compromised my operation. Dante's voice was cold, final. You have 48 hours to leave the city. If you're still here after that, your children will be visiting your grave. The threat hung in the air. I should have been horrified, should have run. But I'd known who Dante was when I married him. This was part of his world, a world I'd accepted, even if I didn't always like it. The other man left through a different door, escorted by Marco. Dante sat behind his desk, rubbing his temples. I knocked softly and entered. He looked up, his expression softening immediately when he saw me. How much did you hear? Enough. I moved around the desk and settled into his lap. Not easy with my belly, but we managed. Bad day? Someone betrayed us. Information got to the wrong people. Cost me a significant amount of money and product. He rested his hand on my stomach. I don't enjoy being cruel, Elena, but in my world, mercy is seen as weakness. I know. And you're still here. I'm still here. I kissed him softly. You're a good man who does bad things sometimes, but you're also a devoted father and husband. You protect us. That's what matters to me. He pulled me closer, as close as the baby allowed. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. He laughed, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Come on. I smell your mother's cooking, and I'm starving. Dinner was chaotic and perfect. Sophia talked non-stop about her day. Mama told embarrassing stories about me as a child. Dante watched us all with barely concealed emotion, his hand finding mine under the table. This was our life. Imperfect, complicated, built on a foundation of darkness and danger, but also filled with love, laughter, and hope. After Sophia was in bed and Mama had retired to her room, Dante and I stood in what would soon be the nursery. He'd had it painted a soft green, neutral and calming. A crib stood in the corner, waiting. Are you scared? I asked. About the baby? Terrified, he admitted. What if I fail him the way I almost failed Sophia? You didn't fail Sophia. You just needed help. We all need help sometimes. And if he's like her, different in some way, I placed his hand on my belly, then we'll love him anyway, just like we love her. That's what families do. Our family, he said, wonder in his voice. Our family, I confirmed. He kissed me then, deep and slow and full of promise, and as our son kicked between us, as if to say he was ready to join this imperfect, beautiful family, I knew we were exactly where we were meant to be. Together. Always together.